This is Virgin Queen by GMT Games. It's a war game depicting the major European powers battling over Europe and the New World, and I suppose the Old World, during the reign of Elizabeth I, aka the Virgin Queen. It's very complicated as far as just reading the rules, so I'm making this video to teach myself and also to provide something to my gaming group because teaching it in person is quite intimidating to me. I'm not going to actually go over the rules, but I think I'm just going to start playing, and as new concepts arrive, I will describe them. Virgin Queen is a card-driven game, and therefore all players need cards. One of the first things you do at the beginning of the game, or I should say at the beginning of a turn, is draw cards. There's a bunch of other bookkeeping type things you do, but at the beginning of the game, those are taken care of for you, so no need to worry about that. But let's figure out how to draw our cards. Let's take a look at the Ottoman Empire. Well, one thing we want to look at is in the lower left hand corner, every player mat has a cards and VP per key section. Basically, there are a bunch of squares that have markers on them, and as the markers are removed from this mat, it reveals how many cards you would draw each turn. We'll figure out where those markers go later, but at the beginning of the game, suffice it to say, there are 6 missing here, which we can see is 4 cards. We also look around and see if there's any bonuses. I don't really see any. You also have your monarch or ruler. Sometimes they give you a bonus card. So Suleiman the First does not get a bonus card, but he draws 4 cards. So let's go ahead and draw his cards. There's 4 cards. After you do that, your power always has at least 1 home card. So typically it would be discarded on top of your ruler's picture, so you just pick it up. Turns out the Ottomans have 2 home cards, and they're clearly marked as home cards. So you add that to your deck, so Suleiman starts with 6. Notice the board there says Ottoman. That is the first player in the game, and as you go around the board, there's Spain, there's way over there England, France, and so on. So the board tells you the order to do these things. Let's take a look at Spain. They are a superpower and thus have many tiles here, but they all amount to 5 cards, looks like. No bonuses. Philip II does get 1 extra card, so they get 6 cards total. Okay, there's their 6 cards, and Spain has 1 home card. So we would just do that for all 6 players. Since this is a 5-player game, we only do it to 5. The Holy Roman Empire does not get cards during this phase. Next, we enter the diplomacy phase, which is it's recommended to set a time limit on that to 10 minutes. Basically, this is where the various players negotiate with each other. They basically walk away from the table, take various assets they might have with them, and enter secret negotiations with other players. It's always useful to see what the situation is on the diplomatic status chart first, though. Here we can see Spain and the Ottoman Empire start the game at war, same as England and France are at war, and the rules stipulate at the beginning of the game they cannot sue for peace in the first turn. You can also see France is allied with a minor power, Scotland, so they can control Scotland. Spain is allied with the papacy. So basically that's the situation, and it dictates a little bit how we enter diplomacy. Let's come over to sort of I've organized all the cards and assets basically for the various powers. For example, here's the Ottoman Empire. They have some cards. Spain has some cards, and they start with a treasure token. They have 2 royal family members available, and so on. Here's France has a royal family member and some cards. England, royal family members, and so on. So going in player order, well, I guess on the diplomacy phase it doesn't matter, but let's just say the Ottomans walked over to someone and they said, hey, I'm at war with Spain, I should get an ally. Hey, France. Let's talk. What they might talk about? Well, they can agree to form an alliance. If they form an alliance, they can agree to have one party loan the other party naval vessels. They can agree to have one of them give 1 or 2 cards to the other. They have to be random draws. If they had treasure, they can offer 1 to 2 random draws of treasure to each other. They could set up a royal marriage. Of course, the Ottomans don't have a royal family apparently, so they do not get to participate in marriages, but all the other powers do. You can see various royal family members that are available for marriage. There are probably a few other things they can do, but those are the basics. Anything that changes the game state is binding. For example, if you exchange cards, well, you can't say, give me my card back. If you say, hey, let's enter into an alliance, well, we go mark it on a board and therefore it's locked in. But if you say, hey, I promise to do this in the future if you do this, well, that is non-binding. But you can still negotiate that. So let's just say the Ottomans, take a look at their assets, which, quick skim, I don't really know the game enough to know this, but, they don't seem to have anything, wonderfully useful. But let's just say, since they're at war with Spain, and they're sort of over in the east here, Spain's over in the west and in Italy. I know that because Spain is yellow, Ottomans are green. That they want to form an alliance with someone big. The Holy Roman Empire would be the best because they're right next to them, but France is probably the more likely candidate since Holy Roman Empire is not a player nation. So let's just say they approach France and say, hey France, want to be allies? Or maybe France says, what do I get out of that? Can I have one of your cards? And they say, well, I don't have many cards, so no. Until they say, buzz off. Maybe Spain walks over to France. They're not going to walk over to the Ottoman Empire player because they're at war. They walk over to France and say, well, hey, what about me, man? Want to be allies with me? And France says, well, yeah, you're right next to me. I'm a little scared. Let's form an alliance. Okay, let's remember that. And then Spain says, hey, Philip, according to his card here, says he has a prearranged marriage with Elizabeth de Valois, which you have. And if we break that marriage off, I'm going to lose a card on turn 2. Well, I don't want to do that. Plus, getting married is going to give us points. And points help us win the game. What do you say? And France says, yeah, let's not break it off. Of course, France could break off the marriage. There's no bindingness going on there. So maybe France says, how about you sweeten the deal? As a sign of good faith, how about you give me your treasure? And Spain's like, oh, what is that? Those are 2 command points. Command points are the currency of the game. That's not much. Okay, I agree to give you my treasure. Please promise not to break off the marriage. France is like, okay, cool. And then Spain's like, okay, I got this other guy. I want to marry him off too. I want some points for getting my guys married off. How many ladies are out there? Well, Elizabeth's already going to be married to Philip. Elizabeth the First, ooh, she's got a high point value of 5. The big numbers on these royals increases your chances of getting goodies when they marry. So they say, hey, England, what do you say Elizabeth and Don Carlos get married? Well, Elizabeth gives England points every turn she doesn't get married. So England says, nope, sorry. So then Spain says, there's only one other lady available, Anna of Saxony. She's only worth 1 point. She is a Holy Roman Empire lady. When the Holy Roman Empire is not controlled by a player, you can spend a diplomatic point to acquire marriage. So let's go see what Spain's situation is with the Holy Roman Empire. So we look at the Holy Roman Empire diplomatic influence area. And buried under here, Spain has 1 point of influence with the Holy Roman Empire, so they're going to spend it. They have 0 influence with them now. But that allows them to lock in a marriage with Anna of Saxony. So we'll just remember that. And, then these other guys are talking to each other. Well, Elizabeth and Elizabeth I and France, they're at war. They're not really going to talk to each other. The Dutch are over here like, hey, what about my guys? I want them to get married. Hey, Elizabeth, can I marry William of Orange to you? I have some good cards that could help you. I promise to play. Here, take a look, which is totally legal. Take a look. I have this card, John Hawkins, and it looks like it would be good for you. No need to read this, but let's just say it's good for England. And Elizabeth's like, well, I'm going to lose a point, or actually a point per turn if I do that. How about you play that card, you promise, I'll marry you, and I want a random card from you. And the Dutch guys say, or the Protestants, okay. And that's sort of how the diplomacy phase would go. Then everyone goes back to the table. Then, in player order, they sort of announce the deals that were made. Ottomans are like, no deals made. The Spanish say, well, Elizabeth and Philip, we're getting married. So we go set that couple off to the side. And then they announce, hey, we used our influence to get Anna of Saxony and Don Carlos together. Okay, so there's another marriage set up. Trying to remember what deals we made, but anyway. Then the Dutch and by the way, as these deals are announced, people say yes, yes, I agree. When it's their turn, they say, oh yes. France says yes, I agree. Elizabeth de Valois marries Philip II. Then we come over. Elizabeth says, oh, I'm going to marry William of Orange, and he's going to give me a card. William of Orange, controller of the Protestants, says, yep, William of Orange and Elizabeth are together. And Elizabeth, draw one card. Elizabeth draws a card, and she takes a look. She's like, cool, a 5, awesome. Big numbers being good. And that's the end of the diplomacy phase. I almost forgot, during the negotiation segment of the diplomacy phase, Spain promised to give a treasure to France, so they went ahead and did that, and in return, France said they'd be allies with the Spanish. So here we go. We mark that up. Oops, that's not quite right. Here we go. Spain and France are allied, so that allows them to move through each other's territory. There's probably some other things they can do. They did not choose to loan ships to each other. Other things you might want to do during the diplomacy phase, those include ransoming leaders you've captured. We'll see maybe that later. You can also declare war. Well, you have to pay for it based on some of the point values on the diplomatic status chart. We'll skip that. So then we go to spring deployment next. So a number of things you do during spring deployment. One of them is that Spain can allocate galleons to their treasure fleet escorts. So I guess they're protecting the treasure fleet. Don't really know what that means, but let's go ahead and do that. We can do up to 2. We'll just take one from Seville Cadiz. And we'll just throw it down on their player mat where it says treasure fleet escorts. No idea if that's good or bad, but escorting treasure fleets sounds good to me. Another thing is English have a special ability during this phase to have their any sea captains they might have be used as naval leaders on the European map. So this guy's a sea captain, he's Hawkins. He can be used by England only as a basically like a military leader, or he can be what is more traditionally used for these kinds of guys as a sort of explorer, someone that goes establish colonies. So England declines to have him used as a naval leader so that he can instead explore later. One thing every player does now is chooses a home card. So right now, all players except the Ottomans only have a single home card. Remember, those are those special cards that you add to your hand. But the Ottomans have 2 home cards. But Suleiman the First has a card bonus. He does not discard a home card during spring deployment, so he gets to have 2 home cards. That's nice. Okay, and then the other thing you do during spring deployment, we do it in player order, is you can move 1 military formation from your capital. And I'm kind of looking around here, so like the Ottomans have a bunch of guys in their capital, but I don't know if I want them to move. I don't know. We might as well do this and sort of explain some of the rules of movement. So these guys are all in Istanbul, the capital. This is a naval leader. This is a land, like a general military leader. The 1 is how well he fights. Basically, add the die to battle. 12 is how many troops he can command. Basically, that's a very high number. So let's take a look at what we have here. There's a bunch of galleys. There's 6 troops, 8 troops, 8 infantry, and 2 cavalry. He's currently at war with Spain. Well, not sure what we want them to do. Maybe we'll send them. We'll move them. So basically, they can move during spring deployment an infinite number of paths, provided it's all friendly and they don't have to cross a mountain pass. These are like a typical path between 2 cities. This dotted line is a mountain pass. So maybe, I don't know, we'll leave 2 dudes and 2 cavalry in Istanbul. And Mehmed will take 6 guys. He can take up to 12, and they'll scoot down to Lepanto. Why am I doing that? I don't really know. We'll see what's going on. Spain, for their spring deployment, I don't really know what they're gonna do. Maybe I should group my forces together. So I'll leave 1 guy in Madrid, and the Duke of Alva will take 2. They'll just follow these paths over to Barcelona, and maybe they'll catch a boat to go attack Ottomans or something. The other guys don't really have many troops to move around. I mean, there's a general in Paris. He's got a few troops, but he's at war with England. Let's deploy them. We'll leave Paris empty and move these guys. Infinite number. We'll go to this spot. Maybe they'll take those boats and invade England. Highly unlikely, but who knows. The Protestants have 0 troops on the board. That's one interesting thing about this game is the Protestants start off map. I should point out that the map is color coded. With all these cities here, they're color coded by the owner. Those are called home spaces. These are Spanish home spaces. These yellow circles. Blue are French. Those are red with white in them, but those are English over there. Now, since there are no markers on these, we just know that they're owned and controlled by Spain. Let's just say the Ottomans somehow took Granada. They would put their marker in there to indicate it's a Spanish-owned province, so it's still yellow, and you can see the yellow, but it's politically controlled by the Ottomans. But we'll get rid of that. Some little tidbits here, like in France, we can see that France has a bunch of different things here. For one, there's these markers here that sort of have the French symbology on them, but they are white. And I'm going to take it out of this one for a second, which is a special case, but let's just say we put it into Chartres. So what that means is it's still French. There's a blue outline around that hexagon, but inside it is a white, smaller hexagon. That means that space is Protestant. So that determines the religion of the city. If I flip this, which is not really necessary because it's by default France here, but if I flip it, it is now Catholic. So by default Catholic. So we're saying Amboise was not Catholic, it's Protestant. And you can see there's a few other Protestant areas in France. There's another few oddballs in France here. Like I said, all blue, French. Well, this is like half white, half blue. What does that mean? Well, the Protestants actually control like two, I don't know if you want to call them powers, but they basically control the forces of the Huguenots, who are Protestant forces that basically rebelled inside France over religious issues and fought many wars there. So those spaces are considered both Huguenot and French in terms of who considers it their home space. And so similarly, there are half and half orange and yellow. Those are Spanish home spaces that are also considered Dutch home spaces. And you can see there's a whole bunch of markers up there indicating Spanish control. That's because those are Dutch home spaces that the Spanish control. England is almost all red circles with white because England is a Protestant nation, though they do have a few Catholic spots right now. We can see way up there, France controls all of Scotland because they're their ally, and looks like Scotland is Catholic except for Perth way at the top, which is marked Protestant, and so on. So anyway, back to spring deployment. No one else wants to do spring deployment. The next phase is the action phase, where all players take a series of impulses. Basically, they in turn play a card or pass. It goes around the entire board and keeps on going until all players have passed. If you pass and still have cards left, well, when the impulses come back around to you, you can keep playing cards. Passing doesn't forfeit the remainder of your turn. So we're starting with the Ottomans. Let's take a look at their cards. I've already kind of gone through what they have here, but I think we're going to play the Grand Vizier. It's a pretty complicated card, but I think they are going to build up their navy because there's a fleet of Spanish and papal galleys there, and they want to build up their fleet to attack that later. So here we can see add any combination of 4 units, either regulars or galleys, to Ottoman home spaces in foreign war cards, whatever that is. Naval units must be added in a port adjacent to the Aegean Sea. So since this is a home card, we place it over the monarch there. I'm going to take 3 new galleys, place them in Istanbul. Got a big stack of galleys there now. And then we still have 1 more unit we can build, so I'll just throw a 1 infantry unit. You know, I would throw it here in Tripoli, but there's like a little anti-build infantry symbol there, so I can't. Maybe I can build it out here. That's also an anti-infantry. So I guess North Africa, you have to ship your troops there. So we'll just go ahead and throw this guy also into Istanbul. That was the Ottoman first impulse. Let's take a look at Spain now. They go next. I think they're going to play this card, the Grand Tour, which benefits France, but when you play a card, and I should have mentioned this already, in general, they have an event and points. So this has 4 points. And in general, you can pick the points or the event. The Ottomans picked the event. Here the Spanish don't want to play this nice French event, so they're going to take the 4 points. Once you, and this is a normal card, so we'll just discard it. So those 4 points you spend based on this little chart of costs for actions. It's sort of color coded by, like, I guess the orangish color has to do with building things. Maybe moving. I guess that's military type stuff. You can see purple is sort of religious type stuff, and so on. So they have 4 points. I happen to know that it is possible to commit piracy. And Spain has a bunch of cities here that are ripe to be pirated. So I remember I mentioned cities are those circles. Well, there's two other kinds of cities. There are stars. Those are fortresses. That's like a city, but in addition to being just a city, it is fortified, meaning it's tougher to acquire via military conquest. Units can take refuge in it. It can be besieged. And it has a fortress that, when on the coast, can help defend against piracy. So this area up here, the Sea of Leon, has no fortresses on it that are Spanish, and there's a bunch of Spanish cities. So I think I'm going to spend 2 of Spain's 4 points to build the fortress. We can see that right here. Build fortress or patrol for 2. I'm just going to take one from here for now. So we'll go ahead and throw the fortress into Barcelona. For the other 2 points, I think we're going to do we're going to build another fortress. That other fortress we're going to build in the New World. Spain's allowed to build 1 fortress in the New World per turn. That's what that little fortress that I stole earlier is from. It's in this slot indicating that's the fortress we're allowed to build in the New World. So we'll spend 2 more points to build it in the New World. I should say not the New World, but the world map, which includes the New World and the Eastern Old World. But Spain is ripe to be pirated out here too. Each of these triangles is not a city, it's a colony. If it has a solid color matching a country, the gray ones are potential colonies that other countries can colonize. So I think we're going to build this fortress here. And that'll help protect the Antilles ocean zone there. So that's Spain. Now for England. They've gone through their cards and they are going to play Sea Beggars, which is a positive card for the Protestants. So they're going to play it for 5 points, which is a really nice card. Let's see what they're going to do here. So for Sea Beggars, they're going to spend 2 points, and I'm looking at their chart to build a galleon. They'll go ahead and put it in Berwick. And then they're going to spend 2 more points to, one is to start an expedition with Hawkins, or is that his name? Yes, Hawkins. Or we chose not to make him a military admiral, instead he's going to lead an expedition. And we're spending 2 points, normally it costs 1, because we're going to equip him to colonize. So that's an extra point for that. And he can be placed into a sea zone, or I should say an ocean zone, where this marker is. So the English are red, so they can go into either of these zones. If the Ottomans were to send out an expedition way over there, you can see a mark, that's where they would go. But I think we'll have them come into the North Atlantic rather than down here. So he's going to start an expedition. Notice this stark line here. These are ocean zones where explorers can go. I guess they're called sea captains. I like calling them explorers. This side is the European map of sea zones, and that's where the military vessels go. So we have 1 point left. We spent 2 to build a ship and 2 to build that expedition. The last point, we can spend 1 for a naval move. So a naval move is pretty nice in that you can move every single naval vessel 1 space. And I suppose you would need to think of port cities, which have these little anchors on them, as a space. So move number 1 is I'm going to move these 2 galleons out to the North Sea. what you do is you flip them sideways after they move. If they're moving into a space where there's no friendlies, and that indicates they are potentially able to be intercepted. I could move these guys out. I'm a little worried that the French will intercept because we are at war with France, and there's a galley and looks like a galleon, so they'd have a bit of an advantage. So we'll leave this guy in port. The other naval move will be the expedition we built. So the order of those choices was important. See the little white arrow there? That's the prevailing winds. So if he moves against the prevailing winds, he's going to have to potentially suffer attrition or potentially be harmed. So I think he's just going to move into the Atlantic coast and establish a colony. Okay, cool. Now we give the French the opportunity to intercept. They decline because the only adjacent naval units is this one galley. It is adjacent because there's a port symbol for the city it's in, adjacent to this sea zone. But there's 2 English galleons. He declines, so then we just flip the galleons on their side. So that was 5 points for the British. And I should discard that. The French. Well, they went through their cards and they're going to play Gouvernante de France. It's a 5-pointer, but they're going to use it for the event. Let's see. There's a couple things they could do, but if a French royal is betrothed, yes, we got Elizabeth de Valois. She's going to marry Philip II. I can add a +2 wedding festivities marker to the wedding. So what that does is make it more likely for the wedding to be successful, and the more successful a wedding, the better chance of getting some goodies. Then either draw a new card from the deck, nice, or take the Grand Tour card from the discard pile. Well, if we remember, I think it was Spain that used the Grand Tour, so that works out pretty good for France. In fact, if I was a savvy player, I would have known that France has this home card and not spent the Grand Tour, so they got it anyway. So anyway, this is a home card, so we drop it onto the Monarch's location. We take the wedding festivities +2 marker, throw it over to the Elizabeth de Valois wedding arrangements. We go dig into our discard pile of 2 cards, take the Grand Touler, put it into our hand, so that's pretty good. Now another thing you can do, normally that would be their turn, but France has a treasure that they received from Spain in payment for forming an alliance. And if we recall, it has 2 CP printed on it, so those are more points like you get for playing events or event cards. So they're going to spend this. You can do this once per turn to continue your impulse with those points. So we burn it. And one thing you have to do is those 2 points cannot be spent in any colored section of these charts that you already spent points on from your card. Since we didn't spend any points on there and we just played an event, it doesn't matter. So we can spend it on anything. I think for now, I think we'll build. You know what? We have the possibility of expeditions as well. So I think they're going to build an expedition. So note they have Villegagnon and Le Testou, potential guys to go exploring. But one thing that's interesting is there are actually 2 explorers available that can be used by the Protestants or the French. And I think the French would rather use one of these guys to deny them access to the Protestant. So I guess they'll fund de Soares to go on an expedition with a colony, so that'll be 2 points. And maybe they'll go into the Guinea Coast region. I'm going to go ahead and throw a French marker under it since it's not 100% clear what nationality that guy is. So he is funded by France. So that was the French turn. Okay, now the Protestants. We skipped the Holy Roman Empire because they're not a player nation. The Protestants are going to play Calvinist zeal to do some religious conversions, or attempt to do that. As they're doing that, the English are like, yo, hey, you promised to play John Hawkins. What is up? You don't want me to jilt you? You don't want Elizabeth to jilt her suitor for the wedding. And the Protestant player remembers, oh yes, Elizabeth is capable of jilting her suitor and breaking off the wedding. So they're like, okay, cool, we'll play John Hawkins. And the top part here looks very powerful for England. This middle part sort of not applicable. The bottom part is not very nice. Flip all English galleons in home ports to their race-built side, which it's a nicer form of galleon, but there's only one in port. So the Protestants say, you know, we're going to play that. And England's like, wait, what about that top part? Play that. I'm like, nope, sorry, buddy. You didn't really specify that in our deal. So they'll go ahead and play that. Kind of a waste of a 4 card, but that was part of the deal for getting their man married. So the English get to flip a race-built galleon, or a galleon to its race-built side if it's in port. So here we go. So, that one says race-built. They fight a little better in the ocean. Okay. Then we go to the Ottomans. We've gone one impulse for all powers, so now we're back to the Ottomans. They're going to play this 3-pointer. The event isn't really applicable to them, so they'll just take 3 points for it. And they're going to do 1 point for a naval move. So that allows them to move every ship they have. So we'll move this giant armada out here. Leave the troops there. And they have a leader, Pial Pasha. Okay, and then there's another stack of naval units over here. So these are Corsairs. They have a gray sail. They don't fight as well, but they're good at pirating. So they'll move out into the Barbary coast. Put them vertical like this. Looks like Dragut is coming out. He's a P2 on him. That means he's a pirate. He gets a pirate bonus of 2, combat bonus of 1. Okay, well there's no one to intercept over here, so I can just keep him like that. Likewise, no one can intercept over here. So that was 1 point. We have 2 points left. I think the second point will be these guys are going to move one more up to here. There's still no one to intercept them, so I won't flip them sideways. Over here, I want to try to engage the Spanish fleet over here in Messina, which is combined with the Papal State fleet. Also, I believe if I wanted to transport troops through multiple sea zones, I need a ship in every sea zone. So I think we're going to move, what is that, 5 galleys over to the Ionian Sea and leave 1 behind. Definitely flip it sideways because the Spanish fleet is adjacent. Okay, so what's the Spanish fleet want to do here? If they attack, I believe in addition to being numerically superior, I believe the defender gets a bonus. So they are going to have to decline to engage. Okay, with the third point, I was hoping to initiate some piracy, but piracy costs 2 for the Ottomans, probably for everyone else too. So we have 1 point left. Well, one nice thing is, well, the Spanish are allies with the papacy. Maybe we'll spend that point to try to influence the papacy. We'll come over here to our diplomatic table. Let's see if the Ottomans are allowed to influence the papacy. Down here, they would need their flag up here saying they're allowed to activate them as an ally or deactivate them from someone else's ally, and it says it's only available in the tutorial. So that's not what we're playing, so they cannot actually influence the papacy. That's unfortunate, so let's go find something else. I meant to take Pasha along, by the way. No, I guess they'll build an expedition. They have to spend 1. So one little side rule here. Well, this is where the expedition would go. Here's the guy. He's Murat Reis. Until the so we all know the British built the Suez Canal, but apparently, according to the game, the Ottomans sort of started digging and just never got there. So until they build it, which they are capable of doing in this game, their explorers have to be damaged. So this guy's damaged, and so he gets deployed there. Why might I be sending this guy out without a colony? Because he can't colonize without a colony. Well, you can get points from all kinds of things in this game, and the game is about points. One thing to you get points for is circumnavigating the globe. So he might go try to circumnavigate the globe. Highly unlikely, but we'll just see how this goes. Spain's turn. Looking through their cards, here's a little 4-pointer. They're nervous about that giant armada from the Ottomans coming in. Unfortunately, playing for many powers and not reading through all the cards carefully, the Spanish should have played this card, possibly, on the French turn, because see, it says response there. So in addition to just being a plain old ordinary event card with some points on it, if it says response, you can play it as a response to someone else's play. And in this case, it could have, down in the or clause, canceled France playing Gouvernante of France, which was actually a decent play on their part. So that would have been nice, but we'll spend this for 4 points. And they're going to build 2 galleys. Galleys are 2 points each. Note, galley is 2 points to build, as well as a galleon. Difference is basically galleys are better when in the Mediterranean. Galleons are better out in the Atlantic. So we're going to build them here in Messina. Support space and a home space. So that's their turn. England. They're going to play this foreign volunteers card, which could give them some more troops, but they'd rather use the 5 points to play. So they got 5 points. I think they're going to do a naval move, so they can move Hawkins down to the North Atlantic. And then they're going to move their 2 galleons from the North Sea down to the English Channel. The idea is they want to engage France since they're at war, and I'm kind of warlike. This galleon will actually come out of port. It's a race-built one. So we've got 3 galleons stacked up. So getting their navy vessels together is probably a good thing. Have to decide, does France want to engage with their 2 naval vessels? And I guess I'm going to say no. So we'll rotate this. So that was 1 of 5 points. So I'm going to spend 2 points to do some piracy with Hawkins. Let's go double check how to do that. Okay, to do piracy, we look at the world map piracy combat table. The errata online required me to pencil some details in there. So basically, we're going to roll dice for the pirate, and we're going to roll dice for the defender, and looks like we want the defender to go first. Defender is Portugal, 1 die for each Portuguese settlement. If we look where the piracy is taking place, there's 1 settlement. So we'll go ahead and roll a yellow die. Got a 1. 1 is a miss. Hits are 5 and 6. Then we come over and we check out how many dice to roll for our captain. 1 die if the captain is damaged. Nope. 1 die if the target player settlement. Oh, if there's only 1 target player settlement. That is true. So I guess if there were more than 1 settlement, we'd roll 2 dice, but only rolling 1. Then there's a bonus, 1 per piracy value of sea captain. Our sea captain has a P1 on there, so his piracy bonus is 1. So that means we roll 2 dice. We want 5s and 6s. We got 1 and 4. So he did not pirate anything. Oh well. France's turn. They've selected Commissioned from Italy. Patronize a specific artist or scientist of your choice from Italy. As if you spent 3 command points on the patronize action, place a control marker of your power underneath the artist or scientist so it is clear which power has commissioned him. Okay, let's grab a marker for our power. Come over to the patronage charts. So this looks a little scary, but basically ignore all this stuff down here. That's for future turns, but basically there are some artists available for hire. We can patronize them. Likewise, there are some scientists. You can only patronize those that are of your nationality. But this one mentioned Italy. So Italians are sort of like, don't care who patronizes them. They're not nationalistic. So we can patronize either Palladio or Balasso as if we had spent 3 command points. So basically what happens is we can patronize them, and at the end of the turn we'll roll some dice and see what happens. It'll either be a waste of effort or we could get some bonuses. Those include victory points, I think possibly card draws, I'm trying to remember, but there's also technological breakthroughs you can have. So I think I'm going to go for the scientist here. I'm going to put him in this row because it says 3 CP there. Looks like he's a +1 when we do a die roll. Go ahead and mark him as being patronized by the French. So hopefully that'll pay off and we can get some victory points and or a technological breakthrough. Okay, now the Dutch. The Dutch really actually want to pass because they'd like to do some like action in France or the Holland, but would rather like the Spanish or French deplete their cards for a little bit, but they cannot pass until they're down to 2 cards, and the reason is there's a potential that every other player would pass. And you see the admin rating of their leadership. It says you can save 2 cards from turn to turn. Well, they have 3 cards, so they're going to have to spend a card, I believe, before they can pass. So let's go ahead and do Calvinist Zeal. And this is going to be a religious event. They're going to do Take 7 Protestant conversion attempts in France, followed by 7 more in the Netherlands. The first die in each area is automatically a 6. The rest are rolled randomly. So it's going to take a little bit. Let's go figure this out. Okay, we're going to do France first, according to the card. And it said roll 7 dice. Here's our 7 dice. It actually said force 1 to be 6. So we'll throw a 6 there, and then we'll roll these 6 dice. One went off the table, so we'll roll that guy. Let's collect all this disaster of die rolling together. Okay, so 6s are like really good. 2s and 3s are misses, so chuck those. 4s and 5s are normal hits. 1s are bad. Okay, so we do that first. Next, we allocate our 6s. So what you can do is, well, I should point out, actually, before we do that, for every 1, actually, if there are any 1s, so if there's 20 1s or just 1 1, we have to put an unrest marker somewhere. Unrest marker basically cancels out benefits of the space to whoever is in control of it. So basically, if they're in control, it almost counts as like they don't control it. Or maybe it exactly means that. So we've just gotten an arrest marker, so we'll take that one out. We're gonna have to put that on one of the spaces that we convert. Then we can allocate our 6s. You can burn a 6 to destroy an unrest marker. You could also burn 6s to expand your base area of conversion. Let's go. What does that mean? So for Protestants, you can only convert spaces, and you get to do 1 per hit that was rolled, that are in the religious struggle area that's being targeted. So most of the map is actually green, sort of like terrain style painting, but there's a few places that are painted with a background color, like the area more or less equivalent to France is blue, Holland is orange, England is red, and Scotland is blue, or light blue. Everything else is not painted that way. Those 4 places are religious struggle areas, so that's the only places we can do this activity I'm doing. And so the space we're targeting must be in that one of the struggle area we're targeting, which is the French blue one. It has to be adjacent to Protestant religious influence. So we can see there's some here, also in Rouen. What's the influence here? No, Calais is Catholic. So we're looking at 4 spots. However, you can also count ports. Ports connected to a C zone that contains other Protestant ports. So, for example, let's say, well, everything's sort of connected to Protestant. Well, actually, yeah, Calais. Calais is not Protestant, but it has a port on a C zone connected to ports that are Protestant. So even though they're English, they're still Protestant. So Calais is an option to try to convert to Protestantism, is basically what we're doing. So I think what we'll do is we're gonna burn one of our 6s to get rid of that unrest marker. And then the other 6 will burn to expand our base area before we actually do the general conversions. So I guess we will I could have also saved that 6 to try to convert a place that's controlled by French troops. I don't care about that right now. So let's just say we'll convert down, we'll expand our base area down this way. Okay, then we have 2 dice left, which are our 5s. Now these conversions must be adjacent to something at this moment. So I guess if I didn't expand that base area, I wouldn't be able to expand down to here right now because it you have to expand from where there are Protestant markers already. So I could go there or there, but I wouldn't be able to go there. But by rolling a 6, expanding my base area, I can now, with my remaining dice, get all the way down to here if I wanted to. I have no idea if this is good or bad, but I'm going to spend those 2 dice to put more Protestants through these sort of Huguenot areas. So I put one there. I can't go here because that's 2 spaces away from a base area. So we'll just throw one down into Poitiers. Okay, so we did the French. It also says to do the Dutch. This is a pretty powerful card. Same thing, we get 7 dice. We fix one to it being a 6. We roll them. Oh, that is huge. 2s and 3s are misses, so we'll retract that. So we got 4, I guess they're called major conversions, and 2 minor with no unrest. So how are we going to do this? So the reason we're doing this is because we'll probably want to follow this up later with a I forget what it's called, but basically like a religious revolt, and we'll want Protestant spaces, I believe. So we could convert later in the turn, this phase, convert these spaces, which are squares, to Protestant religion using those 6s. By the way, I should mention squares. I tried to earlier and I forgot. A square is the 3rd kind of city on the map. There's circles, there's stars, which are fortresses, and then there's squares, which the game calls keys, or I guess that's key to victory or key cities. So they are similar to a fortress in that they are fortified locations, meaning you have to besiege them to capture them. Your troops can take refuge in them, but they also give you points. And if you, as you capture keys, you pull square markers off your player card, and if you run out of player card square markers, you basically just won the game. So capturing the keys is critical. Unlike a fortress, they do not give you piracy defenses. Anyway, do I want to expand my base? Let's take a look at what we have here. There's only 1 Protestant marker in Holland, the Low Countries, I guess. So they could expand into these 2 areas, and they can't expand into here because there's enemy troops there. So I can go here. I can expand my base to here. It's not very useful because the only other spot they can get to is here that doesn't have troops. But there's also the port situation. So all these ports are connected to Protestant ports over in England. So I'm going to use 1 die, burn 1/6 to expand my base in Haarlem. That'll allow him to get over to Amsterdam. Burn another 6 to expand my base, I don't know, in Rotterdam. Okay, I'm done expanding the base. Then I'll spend my 2 5s to do some minor conversions based on my existing base that I just expanded, so I can flip Amsterdam. It's still Spanish controlled, it's just the people are becoming Protestant. And Utrecht, sorry Dutch people for that pronunciation. So that was my 2 5s. Then I can use my 6s for minor conversions, but I'd rather use them, I'm not really sure why, but it seems like it's called out in the rules, so it's probably important. I can use them to convert things next to a base that have enemy troops in them. So I'll flip Antwerp and Brussels. Okay, so there's more Protestants on the board. Let's count those up that we just got. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in Holland. And down in France, we got 7, 8, 9. The reason I care is we can come over to the Protestant spaces chart. We need to change it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we just went from this row to this row. So went up by 2 rows. When we take a look here, that actually affects victory points. Spain went down by 2. England went up by 1, so I guess England likes Protestants because they are Protestant. And then the Protestants went up by 2. Where are our victory points? They are buried under my rulebook with more buried stuff. Okay, so we said Spain went down 2. We said Protestants went up 2. And England went up 1. Okay, so that was good for Protestants, a little bit good for England. I should point out over here, these 3 columns here are for the Holy Roman Empire when they're played by a player. Holy Roman Empire picks whether they have an affinity to Protestantism, to Catholicism, or they're neutral. And depending on the situation, they'll get points, but it's kept secret. So you don't really know till they tell you that they've won, that whatever you're doing is helping or hindering them. So that was the Dutch turn. We're back around to the Ottomans. They're going to play this card, Treachery, ignoring the event, and they're going to spend 5 points. We'll discard it. Well, for starters, there's a bunch of options they have available, but they're going to activate, they're going to pay 1 point, so there'll be 4 left. For a naval move, they're going to move these 5 galleys right into that port, which they're perfectly capable of doing, along with PL Pasha. They're not going to move any of their other guys. Oh, well, hold on here. I suppose they'll move their 1 lone galley out there into this location. Naval move, you can move everything, so I might as well move these Corsairs over to here. So, hard to say, so those guys I turned vertical, they could be intercepted theoretically by the Spanish, but there are, hundreds of Ottoman galleys pouring into the port of Messina, so I'm going to say they can't be intercepted because there's a battle going on in the port. So we'll flip these. Okay, there's a battle, and I don't believe the Spanish can avoid combat. You can try to avoid, but I'm pretty sure when you're in a port, you are stuck. So let's just sort of spread this out. We got 5 of those guys, and I believe because the Spanish built more galleys, there's 5 of these guys. There's PL Pasha. So this is going to be our first real battle. We're going to roll dice for both sides. So there's 2 dice per galley in the Mediterranean Sea. So, we got 10 dice per side. That'll be fun. So there's going to be lots of dice being rolled. What other rolling do we have? The attacker gets 1 extra die for the best, or a die for every battle rating of their best leader. So their battle rating is a 1, so they get 1 extra die. So the attacker will get 11 actually. The defender would get 1 extra die, or a die for the battle rating of their best leader. They don't have one, and then 1 extra die if defending in a port. So it's going to be 11 to 11. Hits are scored on a 5 and 6. Here's 10 for the attacker. So, that's just brutal. So there's 4 hits so far, and then we'll do one more. 5th hit for the attacker. So let's just remember 5. Now we're doing 10 dice for the defender. Oof, just brutal. That was a 2. 2 hits. And then we'll do one more for being in a port. That's a miss. So that's 5 to 2. Here, I'll just do that. So 5 hits by the attacker, 2 to the defender. So the side scoring the most hits wins. If there was a tie, the defender would win. So the Ottomans won. For every 2 hits, a galley, galleon, or race-built galleon is destroyed. So defender had 2 hits, so one of these galleys is destroyed from the Ottomans. And the galley doesn't just go back to your force pool to be built again. It goes on the turn track. So that's like some capacity that cannot be rebuilt. We put it on the turn track for turn 2 way up there. It'll come back later. Not built, but be buildable later. Now there were 5 hits by the attacker, so that would be 2 defensive hits. Well, might as well let the papacy take a hit there. Not really sure what to do with theirs. I guess we'll take a Spanish and papacy galley, throw them on the turn track as well. And then that leaves 1 hit left over. And if there is an odd hit remaining on the loser, they eliminate an extra unit. So ouch. Okay, so it was 5 to 5. It's now 4 to 2. So I'm not really sure what happens now because they're in port and not the defender's still there. So let's figure this out. Well, for a port battle, the rules say the loser has to retreat to a sea zone adjacent to the port. If it can't, and there can't be enemy units in the sea zone, and if there are enemy units in the only options, the defender is completely eliminated. So that would be horrible if they could only retreat to here because there were enemy units there. Of course, Messina has 2 port symbols on it, one in the Ionian Sea and one in the Tyrrhenian Sea. So they can retreat to the Tyrrhenian Sea. Oh, what? I'm not a smart man, but I did manage to completely surround Messina. So they are eliminated. There's no place to retreat to. Throw them on the turn track. Okay, and then it said no matter what, in a port battle, the attacker always retreats as well. So this stack is back out here. So that was good. We just eliminated 5 naval units of the Spanish. Only lost 1 of ours. We're poised to invade southern Italy. All that with 1 point of our 5 spent. So I think we're going to spend a few more points here. I think we'll spend, let's see, I'm going to spend 2 points for this pirate fleet to pirate. First, the defender has to go. So we look for naval squadrons in the zone. There are enemy naval squadrons. There aren't any. We look for any that are in adjacent port or sea zone. There are none because the Spanish had just been completely demolished. And look for fortresses adjacent to the zone, and there aren't any. And if the Knights of St. John are adjacent to it, there are not. So there are no defense dice. So it's just attack. So attacking, we roll 1 die if there's only 1 naval unit attacking, but there's 3. So otherwise 2. So we're going to roll 2 dice for piracy. But then we get 1 die per piracy value of the leader. And there is a leader, Dragut, P2, so that's 2 more dice. If there is only 1 Spanish port, we'd only roll 1 die plus the piracy value, but there are more than 1. So. All right, we got 4, 5, 5, and 6. Let me see what a hit is. Hits are 5 and 6, so there are 3 hits. And Spain is just getting worked here. It's okay, they're a superpower, they can handle it. So we got 3 hits. This is what happens on the European map when pirates get hits. The target power, Spain, has to pick amongst 4 choices for each hit, and they have to be something beneficial to the attacker. They can eliminate a naval unit in adjacent sea zone. Well, there aren't any, they're already eliminated. They can give a random card draw from their hand to the pirate. Okay, that's nice. They can award a treasure. Oh wait, no, sorry. They can yield a piracy victory point. Okay. And then they can reduce the Spanish Armada by 1 level. I haven't even told you what that is, but it doesn't exist yet. So really the only choices are give a victory point and give a random card draw. Both crappy choices. So Spain has a problem because if they give 3 cards, they're totally hurting themselves and going to just allow the Ottomans to continue pushing into their territory. They give too many points, so they could win because if you get 25 points, you win. So tough choice. They're going to award 2 victory points, one for each of 2 dice. And so those just go down here, and I'm not sure if they're permanent or not, but they're going into this little victory point spot. And then they're going to allow a random card draw for the 3rd die. So I take the home card out because you can't give them the home card, but they'll give them this card. Could have been worse, I suppose. So that goes to the Ottomans. And then the Ottomans just got 2 points. So we run over here. Oh, Ottomans are far from 25. So they just got 2 points. There's the 25. So right now Spain is still in the lead. So it's okay. Alright, so the Ottomans spent 1 for a naval move. 1, 2, so a total of 3 for piracy. They still have 2 more moves, or 2 more points, I should say. I think, well, I think they want to transport some troops. Let's figure out how those rules work. Yeah, so they're going to spend their last 2 command points to do a naval move of land units. Basically, you have to have a path through sea zones. These are sea zones that contain your ships. So we have ships here, got some troops over here, to a port city. It can be infinite length, but you have to have enough points and ships to do it, and I'm pretty sure they can't be enemy ships. They completely wipe the seas here, though. So they spend the 2 points like so. So they can move up to 5 units plus infinite number of leaders. So Lepanto, they have 6 units. So let me break that down into a 5 and a 1. So we'll leave one behind in Lepanto. And then these 5 troops are going to sail out to the ships here. That's one of those 2 command points. I can't do it unless I have enough points to get to a destination. And then the other command point will be used to transport them into a port adjacent to those ships. So they can go to Messina or Taranto. Or Messina, I should say. I like Messina because it's connected to more things. So, well, hard to say. No, they're going to go into Toronto. So they drop into Toronto. They don't take control of it. You have to spend command points to take political control of a location. So, but they can do that later. But what's nice is they've arrived in Italy and can start jacking up Spain. Not that they haven't already. By the way, the game has lines of communication. Basically, you can trace an infinite path through friendly territory, and that includes sea zones. So, if there are like enemy ships in any of these ports, it would not be considered friendly. So, they have a line of communication all the way from Istanbul through here to here. Okay, so that is the 5 points for the Ottomans. They did really well this turn. I should have mentioned, after they pirated this sea zone, we need to mark it as having been already pirated. A sea zone cannot be pirated twice by the same player within a turn. These guys can go to some other sea zone and pirate and they'll be fine. Also, a sea zone cannot be pirated twice, regardless of the player. So, you know, if England came in here and pirated and then France wanted to, they couldn't because it would already be pirated twice. And lastly, you only have 3 piracy markers, so the Ottomans can only pirate 3 places per turn. But that doesn't matter because they killed it on that last pirate action. Okay, Spanish turn. They just got jacked and they have Ottomans invading Italy, so they're going to play Spanish Road, their home card, for the event. They add 1 regular to Milan, move a leader from any space to Milan, then move a formation from Milan using the rules for spring deployment. But they can also go through independent spaces and Holy Roman Empire spaces if it's not player controlled. Okay. So we'll add 1 regular to Milan. We will teleport the Duke of Alva from Barcelona to Milan. And then they will act as if they're doing spring deployment. I'm going to take these 3 infantry and the Duke of Alva through Pavia, Genoa, Siena, Rome, and end in Naples. Okay, England's turn. They're going to play Selim II. This is actually a mandatory card. You see mandatory? So before they can pass, they have to play it. And basically the event fires and then they get 2 points to spend. So the event is Suleiman dies. So too bad for the Ottomans. So Selim II is the new leader of the Ottomans. So he can save 2 cards and he gets a card bonus, but that means next turn the Ottomans are not going to have 2 home cards. They'll have to discard 1. Let's see, it also says we put a victory point marker on Cyprus, and so if the Ottoman player gains control of Cyprus, they'll get a victory point. So we'll go ahead and put this on the Ottoman card here. Take the Cyprus victory point and put it over here on the Cyprus, which is Venetian. And then the English spend their 2 points. So I think they're going to do a naval move. So they're going to move Hawkins down to the Guinea coast. And then they could move all their other ships too. I think they're just gonna, well, you know what? They're gonna cruise into the port of Brest here. Do another naval battle. The galley, French galley, cannot try to escape because it's in port. Basically because there's enemy units in its space. So let's remind ourselves how to do a naval battle. Let's see, we're in a port. We get the British get 2 dice per galley and race-built galleon. There's 3 of those. That will be 6 dice. And they have no leaders, so that's all they get, 6 dice. So let's see what we have here. Looks like we have 2 hits. The French have a galley. It's in the Atlantic Sea Zone. It's in a port of the Atlantic Sea Zone. They don't have a leader. So they get 1 die roll plus 1 extra die for being in port. Misses. So that means the attacker wins. They did 2 hits, which is just enough to kill the galley. That goes to the turn track. And the British must immediately retreat. Okay, that was 1 of their British points. The other point they're going to spend they're going to increase their, well, it's a tough choice. I guess they're going to spend their other point on another naval move. Basically, I want them to send Hawkins, try to get him going around the world. So he's going to move along the prevailing winds into the South Atlantic. And do we want to move these ships? Why not? Let's move them into Calais. I feel like I'm doing something wrong here because this just seems too easy. Have a few ships battering everything. I'll look those rules up later. Just to double check. Okay, so same kind of situation. So the British get 6 dice. It's 3 hits. And then the French get 2 for a galleon, 1 for a port. That's 1 hit. So attacker wins, 2 dice, take out the galleon. The odd French die doesn't do anything because they are not the attacker, or the winner, I should say. And then the British retreat. Okay, that's the British turn. So my reading of the rules on naval combat, by the way, seems to indicate that you can keep on moving during your impulse, keep on attacking. If you lose, you can no longer do naval moves with ships that lose in a combat, but otherwise they can keep on going. So it seems pretty powerful if you can get your ships together quickly and attack lone vessels piecemeal. Anyway, that's the English turn. Okay, the Protestant turn. They are going to play Army Mutiny for the points. And what they're going to do is Rebellion. They can spend between 2 and 5 command points. They're going to spend all 4 on a rebellion in France. So they need to pick a target space, and it has to be Protestant. I think they're going to pick Poitiers, because a successful rebellion can take control of adjacent spaces, and there's a lot of adjacent spaces there. Also, there's no French military units there, which means the rebellion is automatically successful. We could have rolled some dice to resolve it if there are actually French troops there, but I'm going to play it safe here. So we're going to switch political control of the target space, Poitiers. Actually, what am I doing there? So it's Protestant French. It's converting to Protestant Huguenot. So there we go. That's the first space controlled by the Protestant on the entire board. The rules say additional spaces adjacent to the target space and in the same religious struggle area may be switched to Protestant political control if they're both under Protestant religious influence and free of Catholic units. The total number of spaces flipped in this step may never exceed the number of CP spent. So we spent 4 CP. That means we can flip potentially up to 4 spaces to political Protestant political control. And look at here, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we'll do all of these. So quite a little empire forming down here. Note we are removing for the square space a space from the Protestant card. Okay, so once the Protestants have a foothold due to a rebellion, the Huguenots can receive 1 regular for every 2 CP spent. They add it to the target space. Well, there are 4 CP spent, so they get 2 regulars added to Poitiers. They are now at war with France, so we need to update the war status. We look up Protestant. I guess we look up France and Protestant. Here we go. So Protestants and French are now at war. Lastly, well, not lastly, but another thing we do is they get to place a Protestant capital, actually a Huguenot capital. It does not have to go in the target space. I think I'm going to place it in La Rochelle, since that's a key. And then if there's a military leader available, which there is, it's in the leaders held off-map box on the Protestant card, we can place it. So I guess I'll place the military leader in Poitiers with those troops. Okay, cool. That was the first rebellion. We need to adjust points. So all the spaces were already Protestant, so we don't need to adjust that. But France lost a key and Protestants gained a key. The Protestant card says it's worth 2 victory points. The French card here, let's drop their marker there. So they were at 9 victory points. They're going to drop to 8, so they lose a victory point. Come over to our little victory point chart. So French go down 1, Protestants up 2, so they're slowly rising. that's the Protestant turn. Okay, Ottoman turn. They know they're going to lose having the ability to have 2 home cards next turn, so they might as well spend their other home card, Ottoman Tribute. They're going to use it for 5 points though, and ignore the event. So first point they're going to spend, it's a little risky, but they might as well go for it, is Mehmed. And well, first off, Mehmed's going to spend 1 point to convert Toronto to control of the Ottomans. Okay. Then he's going to spend a point to move a formation. He's going to take his 5 units, move over and attack the Duke of Alva's forces in Naples. So the Duke of Alva has several options here. He could attempt to run away. He could, let's see, he has 4 units. Yep. He could actually put up to 4 units inside a fortified location. And Naples is a square city, so it is fortified. So he could just take refuge in there and try to ride out a siege, but there doesn't really seem to be any other troops available. I mean, just a little bit. So I think he's just going to fight it out, and worst comes to worst, he can go get some Roman or papal troops to help. So he's going to stay here and fight. So this is called a field battle because it's outside the fortress. The attackers roll 1 die per unit, as well as the defenders, plus 1 die for the battle rating of their best leaders. Well, they each have a 1 battle rating leader. The defender gets an extra die. So the attacker has 5 troops, plus 1 is 6 for their leader. Defender 4 troops, plus 1 is 5 for the leader, plus 1 for being the defender. So 6 versus 6. Here come the Turks. 5s and 6s are hits. So there's 2 hits by the Turks. I'm just going to mark that with a 2 here. Now the defender gets 6 dice. I call them Turks, but they're the Ottoman Empire, which of course are Turkish. Okay, the defender got 3 dice. 3 hits, I should say, so we'll go ahead and throw a 3 up here just to remind us of that. Let's see if the Spanish have any cards they could play as well. The Ottomans do not. These cards are not responses. Take note though, some cards are classified as combat cards that you can contribute to the combat, but it wouldn't have, this one's not applicable. Okay, so what do we do here? The field battle winner is the one that has the most hits. So the defender won. 1 unit is eliminated for each hit. So the defender loses 2 troops. The attacker loses 3. So we have to break this down. So 5 minus 3 is 2. No one's eliminated. So the attacker must retreat. Okay, that could have been really bad for the Spanish, but it was not. Kind of bad for the Ottomans. Okay, so that was 2 points they spent. I think they're going to move some more troops. Maybe they'll wait for spring deployment to do much more here. Guess they'll do a naval move. They're not doing so hot right now. I mean, they had a great last impulse, so The naval move will be the Corsairs moving over here to the Gulf of Lyon. Let's see, these galleys, you know, I think we're going to move one of them over to the Aegean Sea. So that way, if we wanted to, we can spend 3 command points later to go move these guys 1, 2, 3 to reinforce. But right now, we only have 2 command points left. So maybe we will pirate again. So in this sea zone here, there's now a fortress at Barcelona, so there's a chance they can be harmed. So the defender gets to roll 1 die. It's a 3, that's not a hit. The attacker gets 1 die. Oh, gets 2 dice for having more than 1 naval unit. And then they can use their leader's piracy value as well, which is a P2, so they're going to get to roll 4 dice. Two hits. So again, the Spaniards are getting worked. We'll mark this, whether it was successful or not, we mark that as been pirated. That fortress they built didn't really help any. So they need to cough up, like last time, 2 rewards, and the only applicable ones were victory point or card. And I didn't mention this last time, but you have to evenly distribute the rewards. So last time there were 3 rewards, so they gave 2 points and a card. This time they have to give 1 card and 1 piracy point, so they will do that. Here's the card. They got that combat card I showed you earlier, and they get a piracy point added to their player mat. That's their turn. Okay, Spain. They're getting worked, but tough choice what to do right now. They could try to round up some more troops in Italy to take out Mehmed, but the turn's almost over, and there's a wintering phase where troops have to move back to fortified positions, so they're going to take a gamble and just play this card right now. Conquest of the Philippines, it's a 4-pointer, but they're going to play the event. Add a Spanish control marker to the Philippines. Add 1 treasure to the 5th treasure box immediately. Spain keeps adding this treasure every turn. So what that means, this card's removed from the game. So they're going to take a control marker, put it way over here in the Philippines. So now they have a colony there. And then their list of treasures down here, which I haven't showed yet. At the end of the turn, during some bookkeeping phase, if there's treasures left, they get brought over to Spain, and Spain gets all these treasures. These are Portuguese treasures, which don't really do anything right now because Portugal cannot be controlled by anyone yet. So these can be pirated by other nations by pirating in the world map, but no one's been successful doing that yet. So what that card did, besides adding control of the Philippines, is that rattling, by the way, is me digging into a random treasure draw. They get to draw a treasure and add it to this 5th slot here. So they're going to be getting an extra treasure every turn if no one pirates them. That was the Spanish turn. England's turn. They're going to play their home card, 5 points, the Virgin Queen. So since the Dutch played the almost useless event on the card that they had promised to play for the English, remember that during negotiations, the English are a little upset, so they waited towards the end of the turn, and they're going to break off their marriage agreement. No one can do this except the British. So if Elizabeth has agreed to marry, she may break that agreement. The affected groom's power rolls on the Jilted by Elizabeth table. England draws 1 card. So, what is the Jilted by Elizabeth table? It is here. Sorry about the lighting here. So the groom gets to roll a die. Got a 6. 6 says, let's see here. Elizabeth grants her suitor titles and other prestigious honors during his lengthy quest for her hand. Nonetheless, she never considers him worthy enough, and a marriage offer never arrives. Gain 2 +1 card markers. So that means the Dutch are going to get 2 +1 card markers, which means on their next turn they get to draw 2 extra cards. So that's a consolation for being jilted by Elizabeth. English turn, over. Okay, France. They're only allowed to hold on to 1 card and they have 4, so they got to spend 3 more cards. They're going to spend the Grand Tour. Remember when they grabbed that from the discard pile? They're going to use it for the event. It's quite detailed here, but they can undertake up to 2 different items from the following list. End a war with a major power. Well, they're at war with the Protestants and the English. They're going to end the war with the English. Okay, so we'll update the track for that. Okay, that has been done. And then I guess they'll do D. Add 1 regular in Paris, and then move a formation from Paris using the rules for spring deployment to another French home space. So we'll add a regular to Paris, and then it can spring deploy. Well, what's an important place for them to go? Hard to say. So they're worried about these Huguenots moving around. Well, if they can get near the capital, that'd be good, I suppose. You know, maybe it's better to get to them into a fort. So they'll spring deploy along these lines down to this fortress, I should say. I think so. That card's removed from the game now. Done. Sorry, it's only removed from the game. If we can see that, after the Catholic League has formed, which it is not. So it's still in the game, just discarded. The Protestants, they have 2 +1 card tokens from earlier. They have 1 card left. They can hold on to, let's see, up to 2 cards. So they have 1 left though. I think they want a big turn next turn. So they're going to go ahead and pass for now. The Ottomans still have quite a few cards. They're going to play Diplomatic Miscue for 3 points. They're going to spend all 3 on a naval transport. Istanbul has 3 infantry and 2 cavalry. I think they're going to split the cavalry up and do 1 cavalry each. Leave 1 behind. They're going to take 3 infantry and 1 cavalry, so a total of 4 units. They're going to naval move them. So I can move up to 5 units by naval move, but you can only move 4 units at a time without a leader. So there's no leader here, so I'm using the max of 4, so that's 1 point, 2 points, 3 points to join up with Mehmed. So yeah, let's just see what they got here now. 2, 3, 4, 5 infantry and 1 cavalry, plus Mehmed. Okay, that was their turn. You know, I just realized something. The Ottomans have done, I believe, 2 naval moves since they put Murat Reis down here. Let's see, 1, 2, yeah, maybe even 3, but we'll just say 2. So I should have been moving Murat Reis, and I'm just going to correct that. So one interesting thing is this guy's special ability, he never dies from navigation rolls. So if you go against the prevailing winds, which are white arrows, you have to make a navigation roll and you might die. Also, there are some blue arrows For example, right there it says to the Mexican coast. That blue arrow is, I guess, a hazardous journey, so that also requires a navigation roll. But since this guy never dies from navigation rolls and he's already wounded, it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to move him too, as if I had done that for each naval move. So he'll come over here to South Pacific, and he'll go off the board, come back over here to the Mexican coast. So he is almost around the world. And like I said, I don't need to roll for navigation, I don't believe. Let me just do a quick double check. Actually, I do need to roll for him going across that blue arrow. Even though he can't die from failing to navigate, he can be returned to the turn track. So here we go. Looking it up on the navigation table, 7 through 8 is damaged, and he got an 8. He's already damaged, so he's not going to make it around the world. He's going to the turn track. Expedition canceled. Okay, Spain, they're having a tough go right now, and they only have one card. They could avoid playing it and leave the Ottomans in doubt of what they might have available, or they could just play it and then the Ottomans will have no doubt. There won't be any cards. You know, I think they're just going to pass and hold on to this, because this is also a good card for the Ottomans, so maybe if we hold on to it for a bit, we can avoid them getting it. Pass. England can hold on to 2 cards, which is what they have. They're going to pass. France, they're going to play John Knox for 2 points. And I think they're going to start building up to go fight those Huguenots. So they're going to activate Montmorency to... There's no longer at war with England, so he's going to pick up these 3 troops. They're going to go 1. That was 1 point. And then the second point, they're going to go 2 to Paris. So Paris is safe. And that was it. So that may have been the first main normal move you've seen. So clearly normal moves are slow. You have to spend 1 point per space or 2 points per mountain pass. So spring deployment is your fastest way to move. Okay, the Ottomans. They're going to play flooding for 2 points. And they are going to do a move. Surprising, I know. Of this army of 5 infantry and 1 cavalry with Mehmed. And they're going to attack the Duke of Alva in Naples. The Duke of Alva, in this case, is going to try to avoid battle. He rolls 2 dice. He's rolled a 3. You have to subtract a die if there are enemy cavalry that you're trying to retreat from. By the way, he was trying to retreat to Rome. You need a 9 or more, so he cannot avoid battle. So now he has to decide, is he going to fight a field battle or withdraw into the fortifications of Naples? And I think that is what he's going to do. He is in the fortification of Naples. So now we have a siege going on here. As long as the attacker has more units than the defender, and by the way, a fortification can only hold 4 units plus leaders. But anyway, as long as the attacker has more units, there's a siege in place, and then they can try to assault it later. So that was 1 point they used to move, so I guess they might as well assault. Let's figure out how to do that. Well, it turns out you can't actually assault on the same turn that you initiated a siege. They're going to spend their last point, I guess, to collect some more troops together. So they're going to move this force to Lepanto. Later, some future point, they'll probably transport them over to Italy. England's turn. I had said they only had 2 cards left, and they're going to pass and hold on to them, but I forgot they were able to draw a card after playing the Virgin Queen card. So they have a card they're going to play. Let's see, Dragoot Falls for 2 points. And they're going to initiate piracy down here in the South Atlantic with Hawkins. So first we roll for the target, which is the Portuguese colony here. That gets 1 die. That is a miss. And then I believe Hawkins gets a single die for trying to pirate only 1 location. There are not many locations there. And then 1 die for his piracy ability. Alright, he got a 6. So that's a hit. This area has been pirated by England. Now England gets to randomly draw a Portuguese treasure, so we'll take this one. And it's a science bonus. Gotta go look that one up. Okay, science bonus. Basically England can just stick this off to the side, or they can extend their turn with it, as we saw the French do earlier. So they're going to extend their turn with it, and that is going to be to claim this science bonus. And basically, when you have a scientist that you've patronized, and they have a successful breakthrough, you can choose a technology, basically, science bonus. So England went through them all, and they're going to pick the bonus called Observatory, which gives them +2 to science rolls. So if they patronize other scientists, they'll have +2 to the die rolls. So that's nice. So I'll throw that in their bonus section. And that's their turn. The French now, they have 1 more card to burn before they are able to pass. They're going to spend 1 point, Tilbury Speech, for the points. And they're just going to have Montmorency move all his troops in Paris down to Orléans. Just kind of getting ready to assault next turn the Protestants, who we can see are nearby. Okay, the Ottomans. I should say the Protestants, but they pass. Ottomans, pass. Spain, pass. Mess, that is England, pass. France, pass. Pass. Everyone's passed. That is the end of the action phase. Okay, now we're in the winter phase. This is where everyone kind of goes to ground and there's some bookkeeping. Some things are not applicable, but if there were any unused treasures that people had accumulated, they would have to discard them. So it's good to use the treasures you received. We also removed loaned naval unit markers. So if you had loaned a naval unit to someone, they give it back. Leaders and units have to return to fortified spaces, possibly suffering attrition. So I didn't really think about this when playing this turn. When the Ottomans went in for that siege there, they needed to do it early so that they can finish the siege before winter sets in. So now their units have to return. So first off, we'll just do them first since we'll do it in order. Naval units must return to the closest port. So I guess this galley will go to Coron, and these galleys will go to Toronto, I believe. Let me just make sure that's correct. That's correct, but they can go to the nearest port that is controlled, and if they're equidistant, which Coron is, and Lepanto for that matter, they can choose. So they'll stack their entire navy over here in Coron. Land units must also return to friendly fortified spaces, and ideally trace the path to those spaces without having to pass through enemy controlled seas and such. So unfortunately that means the assault into southern Italy is over. These guys have to go all the way back here Go find a fortified space. The closest one. Let's see, there's a Scutari over here. I think that's what they'll do. They'll cross the seas and I guess Athens is probably closer. So each fortified space can only hold 4 units, so we'll throw 4 into Athens. So 1, 2, 3 is Athens. I think Salonika and Scutari are equidistant, so we'll send this guy over to Salonika. Then these guys in Lepanto have to go, so they go to Salonika as well. So we're not overstacked. Mehmed would have gone with these guys. Okay, so the Ottomans are now wintering. We have a few over here too. These are the guys that were pirating. They'll come back to Algiers. We also removed piracy markers, so might as well grab theirs. Spain. The siege is broken. They are already in a fortified space, so they don't have to move. If you are in a fortified space and you want to move, you can move to your capital. And Spain has 2 capitals, but they're going to stay there. Okay, now England's fleet. Guess let them move to Plymouth. Everything else is fine. French are all in fortified spaces. The Protestants are not in a fortified space, so these guys will move to, looks like Amboise or La Rochelle is the choice. They'll go to Amboise. So that's better, it's a fortress. Okay, English piracy is removed. Sea captains, they must move back to their starting sea zone or to a colony if available, and they cannot cross arrows the wrong way. So what was this guy's name again? Hawkins. He can get all the way up to Roanoke, so he'll do that. He'll winter in Roanoke, Virginia. De Soares, he never really got going. He's pulled back off the map. He goes to the French. Actually, he's for hire now, and the colony was wasted, so that was a waste. I was going to go look for the Ottoman one, but they've already moved. They're on the turn track right now. Okay, a few other things we do during the winter phase. All major power alliances are ended, so France and Spain are no longer allies. The minor power alliances of the Papal States with Spain and Scotland with France are still active. We also remove all treasures. So these treasures from the New World get transferred to the Old World. So Portuguese treasures, Portugal's not active, so they just go away. Spanish treasures, though, go to Spain, so they get 5 treasures. That is huge. So the other players need to be pirating this. So Spain just got a bunch of treasure. There's a few other things that are not applicable. So then we enter the marriage resolution phase. So let's go over to the royal wedding area. So we have 2 marriages set up here, and we get to roll to see what happens. So let's do this marriage first. Elizabeth de Valois with Philip II, and there's a +2 wedding festivities marker. We roll 2 dice. We add their values together here. So it's 5 plus the die roll of 7, the +2 for the wedding festivities. So that's 12, 14. So 14. We looked that up on the wedding chart. True love, what a rarity for a Renaissance royal wedding. The bride and groom are both deeply in love. They enjoy a long marriage that is both productive and happy. Each power gains 1 victory point marker and a +1 card marker. So each is going to get a +1 wedding victory. So that would go to Spain and France. Likewise, they get a +1 card marker, so they'll get an extra card draw. And if I remember right, France also gets a bonus victory point. I'm not sure if it... Yes. So we'll go get the Elizabeth de Valois marker, put it here, and it'll give France yet another victory point. Now we'll resolve Anna of Saxony and Don Carlos. So their points total is 3. Rolled a 10, so that's another good roll. 13. Several children. No, they don't really like each other, and no, they don't bring peace to their lands, but several new royal heirs are born from their union, so it's certainly not a total loss. Each power gains 1 wedding victory point. So Spain did well on these weddings. They got 2 points and a card draw. I believe even though the Holy Roman Empire is a non-player country, they can take that victory point. Okay, those are the weddings. Let's see, there's a few other activities here. So husband's power, +1 card next turn. See, that's what the special bonus for marrying Anna of Saxony. So man, Spain gets another +1 card. What was this on Don Carlos? Must re-roll highest marriage result die. Oops. So we had 2 5s. We got a 4. Let's see if that changed things. Oh, that did change things. Mistake. It's actually benevolent rulers, although all their children die in infancy. The couple brings relative peace and stability to their kingdom. The arts flourish and a national identity continues to emerge. Each power gets a +1 card marker. Okay, so check the weddings. They're each going to get a +1 card marker, which I'll have to dig out. So still not too bad. Now those cards just get discarded now that the weddings are over. Now we come over to the aging of royals. These royals age and become less desirable. For example, Elizabeth, her point value is 5, but she ages a little bit and is now only worth 4. I should point out England gets a +1 Virgin Queen marker for her not marrying. We're going to skip the men for a second. Anna of Saxony got married, so she's good. Any other women? Elizabeth de Valois got married. So the rest are men. I need to look up what we do with the men. They roll a die. 5 or 6 are hits, which are bad. So first we'll do the Earl of Leicester. I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but he does not age. Or he might age, but he's still considered a good mate. Now Earl of Arran, he's fine. Charles II of Austria, he's fine. William of Orange, I rolled a 6. He degrades in marital quality. Don Carlos, of course, got married. Philip II got married. Okay, so that's the aging of royals. Next we evaluate artists and scientists. So one scientist was patronized, Belasso, by France. We're going to roll 2 dice, add his rating, which is 2. He's also in the +1 column since 3 command points were spent. So we'll be adding 3 to the die roll. Roll a 7, which is a 10. Look it up here. He has a groundbreaking discovery. France gains 1 victory point award or a bonus. So they could take one of these technologies, or take a bonus point. France is getting some decent victory points for a few things, so I think they're going to take a scientist point. And then Balasso is done. Okay, so another item. If France controls Paris, they do, they get a victory point for controlling Paris. If the Holy Roman Empire controls Prague, Vienna, and Buda, they get a point for being master of Central Europe. Well, they do not. Ottomans own Buda. And that is the end of turn one. Quite a few points were gained by France and the Protestants. Spain is sort of hanging in there. No one's in shooting range of the 25 points, but that's definitely going to change. Turn two will definitely be interesting in that France gets an extra bonus card. Spain has 5 treasures and 3 bonus cards. The Protestants have 2 bonus cards. So it's going to get very interesting with a few players having some very powerful situations, in particular Spain, who's taken a pummeling, but they now have quite a few assets coming next turn. Hopefully this helped learn the game a little bit. There's lots of little details that weren't covered in this, but I think walking through one turn kind of gives a feel for it. And that is Virgin Queen.